Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Premier Injuries Daily Roundup. I'm back, and thankfully, Zoom is back in the game. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can check out my weekend roundup from Monday. It was a bit of a technological disaster. However, back on it, and we go to Europe first, and Heung-min Son was replaced in and around that 30-minute mark with a pretty nasty looking head injury. Certainly, post match images showed that the South Korean was struggling to open his left eye. Now, reports from during that game from respected journalists indicated that there was a possible orbital injury there, eye socket, maybe even a fracture. But when the assistant coach Christian Stellini spoke post match, he went on to allay those fears of a serious setback. He said that Heung-min Son was with the group. He was celebrating that last gasp win over Marseille and sort of played down any suggestion that the South Korean could be out for a lengthy spell. However, evaluations and assessments will continue. You certainly even can't rule out a concussion at this moment in time. Those assessments, like I say, will go on probably over the next 24 to 48 hours. If a concussive episode is apparent, then he will miss out in game week 15. There's an enhanced care protocol, means that the earliest he will be back would be for the Carabao Cup next week. Tottenham also went to France without centre-back Christian Romero. The Argentine has been struggling with what Antonio Conte has referred to in the past as a fatigue-related thigh problem, and that, for all intents and purposes, continued to be the case, but reports now emanating from his homeland suggesting that the centre-back will be sent for further tests just to see what if there's any underlying problems in and around that muscle. So watch this space. Of course, Davinson Sanchez has been his replacement in recent games, and you could expect that to continue this weekend. Elsewhere for Liverpool, James Milner, he was forced off. That was another clash with former Fulham midfielder Anguissa. Didn't look comfortable, picked that up in the first half, did manage to play on until early in the second half, but was replaced early on. Again, Jurgen Klopp suggested that it wasn't anything too serious, and he did actually reference the fact that he said he was fine post-match. Liverpool welcomed Ibrahima Konate back into that alongside Virgil van Dijk in the place of Joe Gomez. That coincided with another clean sheet against one of Europe's leading teams at the moment in Napoli. So providing he can play in back-to-back games in quick succession, the fact that they played on a Tuesday night is good. We could see Konate as a preferred partner to Van Dijk this weekend. For Manchester United, they play in the Europa League on Thursday night, and as I'm recording, the team will be flying out to Sociedad. Now, Anthony Martial will not be a part of that travelling squad, despite training with the group all week. He's been managing an ongoing back problem, having just returned from a hamstring issue prior to that. So he's remaining at Carrington to get some more work done. And also Anthony, he will remain at the club's training complex as well. Of course, he missed out at the weekend. That wasn't related to his showboating in the Europa League last Thursday. Elsewhere within the United camp, they had an open training session on Thursday morning. Jadon Sancho was not part of that. We now know that that was due to illness. However, Victor Lindelof has been past fit, cleared to return to the lineup again. That was illness related, and he is part of the travelling squad. Aaron Wan-Bissaka could also be recalled to the side, having missed several weeks with a muscle problem. Chelsea also play in Europe on Wednesday night against Dinamo Zagreb in the Champions League, and the Blues will be without goalkeeper Kepa. He was forced off on Saturday at Brighton because of a foot issue, replaced by Edward Mendy. We now know Graham Potter confirms that that problem relates to his plantar fascia, although he didn't go as far as to say that it was plantar fasciitis, which has affected the likes of Patrick Bamford and Jordan Henderson in recent times. Mateo Kovacic should feature. However, there is an ongoing calf issue that we need to be aware of. So if he does start on Wednesday night, that calls into question his availability the weekend, with those games coming in quick succession. And Koulibaly, providing he comes through that last session without any problems, he could be in a back three or a back four. He's been sidelined recently with a minor knee complaint. For Arsenal, we haven't yet heard from Mikel Arteta. They're playing on Thursday night. But the big talking points, or what everybody wants to know, is an update on Bukayo Saka. He took several kicks on Sunday before he was eventually forced off. That was in and around the lower leg and the ankle. The good news is, despite limping through those early exchanges, he did play on for a little bit, and I understand that it's mainly impact, so nothing too serious and certainly nothing long-term, nothing that would call into question his involvement for England at the World Cup. For Aston Villa, since head injuries have been very much in vogue this week, Emilio Martinez, he picked up that knock at St James's Park on Saturday, initially went down and then was cleared to continue for around about sort of 10 minutes before then sitting down again and being replaced. He's come out on social media and confirmed that he's absolutely fine and that he will be available to face Manchester United this weekend. And in terms of those enhanced care protocols, he'll be absolutely fine as long as there's 6 clear days there. He's coming through each stage of that recovery process symptom-free, then there aren't any real issues there. And finally, Manchester City, how could I forget? Calvin Phillips. Pep Guardiola said he's progressing really, really well. And while his availability for City hangs in the balance, I suggest he probably won't feature before the break. He could be available for England in theory. He is taking part in aspects of first team training, although it's still non-contact at this moment in time. So it's difficult to see how he could progress maybe over those next 9 or 10 days to force him in to the reckoning for Pep Guardiola's start level, but certainly for Gareth Southgate's team. And Kyle Walker, he's also following a similar trajectory in terms of his return, likely to be available for England if selected, but unlikely to feature for City. And of course, how could we forget Erling Haaland? There was never any real chance of Haaland featuring against Seville in the Champions League on Wednesday night. We know that foot problem carried over from last Tuesday's Champions League game in Dortmund was enough to rule him out of the win at Leicester. But also there are question marks, one over the fever and a little bit of fatigue in there. With it being a lunchtime kickoff at Leicester, he wasn't risked, but he is improving, he is progressing. And as it currently stands, providing there are no reactions, I'd be very surprised if Haaland wasn't involved in the matchday squad this weekend. So that's it for now. On Thursday, we'll be getting right down to it with those press conferences ahead of game week 15. So keep your eyes and ears open for the next video to drop. And then don't forget also schedule our live Q&A with Jason on Friday once we announce that through our socials, typically around about 2:15. That's team lineups, predicted lineups, team news, and also injury updates. So we'll see you then.